Hello everyone. Here's another dose of enlightenment from the maestro and expert of Bali Legal.
I am dressed in light colors today, Ubud style.
Absolutely maximum stream of consciousness. So let's tune into the dialogue for now. Please, if you would like to receive good information more often, subscribe to the channel. And if you just give a like, it will promote the video. Consequently, more people will learn useful information. Thank you. So today the main question is the scheme for purchasing real estate through a company. In detail and thoroughly.
Yes, absolutely.
So how is the land verification carried out?
Let's start with the outline. Go through the points one by one that will be more convenient.
Easy.
So the scheme is very simple. If someone wants to buy land, they must first choose it. You probably know that the price of land here is gradually increasing.
No, I think it will be falling.
Well, you think it will fall, but it is actually rising.
No, I don't know that.
It is growing.
Okay.
Accordingly, it is growing.
How much is it growing? Approximately in percentage.
There is official statistics for the last 3 years. I recently looked it up, and it shows that it grows by about 20% per year on average. Many developer calculations here are based on this, by the way.
So everything that says there is a 20% annual increase in value, is that not a scam?
About the land?
Yes.
No, it has been about that way for the last 3 years.
No, if we, for example, take the land, build a villa on it with the developer, and he writes this advertising nonsense, and the price increases by 20% per year.
Listen, you know that in advertising brochures they will write anything you want. It just takes, well, really, the latest statistics show that such prices are generally rising, yes, and, well, they continue to grow. So here, in general, if you take a limited sample, like over 3 years, everything is fine.
Good news, okay?
Well, relatively speaking, yes. Accordingly, you choose a plot for yourself, and after that you check it for, encumbrances, to make sure that no one...
I know who we are checking the plot with.
We verify it with the owner. That is, we usually obtain from the developer, even if it is a large developer, the documents that confirm the true owner of the land. Because here, there is often a situation where it's hard to tell who is selling a plot of land and on what grounds.
Okay, what documents need to be provided?
First, there must be a certificate for this land. Depending on how you purchase this land, there can be different certificates with varying statuses.
You're not buying, but taking it on lease, right?
You can lease or buy, depending on what options you have. If you lease as an individual, then accordingly it will be there. The hak pakai agreement, which pertains to the status of the land, the hak pakai is in this certificate that you are requesting.
Let's clarify that there are two options, so to speak, for ownership in Indonesia, specifically in Bali, most likely, right? This is for foreigners. It is ownership as property. Now, we will probably discuss this issue. And the second, most popular option, is leasing or long-term rental. Typically, it is for 25 years, with a possibility of extending it for another 30 years, and then an additional 25.
Yes, because it is easier and cheaper. That's why they do it that way. According to the second option.
Regarding property, what are the nuances?
There are a huge number of nuances regarding property, but we will probably focus on that today, specifically on property. Here is a story about when you can acquire something here in ownership with a limited term. That is to say, it is ownership, but it has a limited duration.
What percentage of buyers want to take it on such terms? Out of 100% of transactions, I think about 90% are ready for a lease.
Russian speakers, if we are talking about Russian speakers, it's about 95-5. That is, 95% are leases and 5% are ownership, approximately.
What percentage of the buyers are Russian-speaking?
It's very hard to say. Right now, I just told you the statistics from all the buyers. When a developer, a Russian developer, offers something for sale on the market, typically Russian-speaking guys come to him, so almost 100% of them are Russian. If the developer is larger, they generally consider working not only with the Russian-speaking audience, but also with the locals, who have much more money than the Russian-speaking audience.
Well, probably not locals, but from Jakarta.
But they are still locals. They are Indonesians, much more local than we are here, right? Such conditional Balinese, enlightened. Accordingly, local money is much more abundant, and therefore large developers typically work with a wider range of clients. And right now it's probably about 50-50.
Could it be that the Balinese... Could it be that Indonesians... Isn't it easier to contact some, I don't know, Indonesian company? buy land through that same Indonesian company and build everything much cheaper. Why would he bother with a foreign developer?
Well, actually, some foreign developers here are quite good. I mean, in terms of construction quality, because many Balinese developers are still very far behind in this matter, significantly so. I recently considered a project. The guys are building a complex of villas here using Japanese technology with prefabricated Japanese frame structures. And all of this looks very cool, of course, and the head of the company who designed all of this and will be building it is Japanese, meaning he is native born right from there. And, well, it's a cool story. The locals wouldn't even think of that. It's still just crap and sticks, which is really, well, a Bali thing, where people try to minimize the quality of materials and costs at the initial stage. That's why I think it's more reliable to turn to Europeans.
Well, it makes sense to lower the cost in order to sell as much as possible.
Yes?
What are these Japanese sticks and crap? What is this frame technology? So, a frame is made of wood, I understand, right?
No, it's a metal structure.
Metal structure. What kind of pie does it have? What are the walls made of?
Well, you're asking me such difficult questions. I was just looking at the project. I mean, I don't remember all those numbers. What makes it different, let me tell you. It's that this building can be rented, disassembled, and moved to another location. It's a good story for level, as you understand.
What is the foundation made of?
Well, here you are again asking me difficult questions.
Most likely this is a Litovi foundation.
Most likely, yes, these posts are ultimately set up, not posts, but reference points, supports on which they are directly installed.
What is the area of such construction?
Listen, they are building on around 1,000 acres, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
No, the area of one unit.
The area of one unit is approximately from 180 to 200 square meters per floor, something like that.
Why do the Japanese need such huge ones?
Listen, well, this probably isn't very interesting for the Japanese. It will be marketed to a Russian-speaking audience. So, a Russian development company came here, found Japanese people who developed a Japanese project, according to all Japanese standards, you understand.
That's it, Candy. Everything sounds good.
A beautiful candy, sounds good, and everything in the project is just great.
What is the selling price of such a villa?
Something will be around $270,000 to $450,000 for a villa. $10,000 to $1,000 is the price, together with the land, of course, under a 25-year lease.
How much land exactly?
Well, regarding the area of the house, everything is there, plus or minus, and the total territory.
200 square meters is essentially the area of the land, plus there is some territory there with a pool.
The remaining common area is usually not done this way. Look, when you have a lease agreement, we, of course, got sidetracked from the topic. But when you have a lease agreement, you cannot transfer ownership of all the land under the building. For that, you must have a separate certificate for that land. No one does that under Liz because breaking the land into many certificates is absolutely unprofitable only if you are selling it there. Accordingly, as a rule, the scheme is such that you have a bunch of plots demarcated, which is unofficial demarcation. An annex is made to the contract in which you receive a certain plot of land and that's it. Everything else is the property of the person who transferred this arrangement to you.
I understand, but in any case, if we are talking about 450,000 for 200 square meters, that's a little over 2,000 per square meter.
Yes, something like that.
A two-bedroom apartment. Indonesia is building about one unit. Our, or let's say, major developers are priced at 2,700 and 3,000. Compared to China, where the price in a Khrushchevka, so to speak, is $6,000 per square meter, it is still, of course, twice as cheap. Well, let's get back to our topic, to the softest part. So, the process of checking the land is more or less unclear.
It's more or less unclear because, in addition to this land certificate, you also need to check what zone it is in. You know that, right? Probably everyone already knows this. It's been discussed 1,000 times, accordingly.
How? Besides turning to you, what else is there?
You can hire an independent notary and try to ask them to do this. By independent, I mean one that is not suggested by the developer, who of course already has everything prepared.
In any case, it sounds very interesting to check.
What does our company earn money on?
No, you understand, but just a piece of advice, guys, at least try to check. Maybe you'll succeed. Optimistically, I would say contracts regarding all of this, about real estate, About purchasing land. Yes. What needs to be looked at? What contracts?
Yes. Next, you need to check the contract that has been drafted. Usually, there is some kind of draft that is sent to you. To be honest, everything we have looked at, 100% of the time, does not meet the client's requirements, the client's technical specifications. That is, it is not even specified somewhere what furniture will specifically be in the house, what brands, what estimated cost, and so on. Some basic mistakes related to taxes have been made, meaning that people rent out land and sell a villa on it, while the overall tax paid is 10%, even though these are two different procedures, one for purchasing and the other for selling. People who are not very knowledgeable lose about 5% in taxes simply because the notary is not even aware that this needs to be divided.
Listen, by the 11th minute I already wanted to sleep and switch everyone interested to your company because, well, even listening from the outside is boring, it's very difficult, very tedious, but we will try to get to the bottom of it anyway. So, it's not very simple here, right? It doesn't sound like an advertisement. Rather, it sounds more like a warning against investing money. That means we also look into the contracts, dig into them, and so on. This all costs money, right?
Yes, but small ones.
Okay, let's say to hire a lawyer to review this contract. How much money?
Up to $200 probably.
Not expensive. Good. So, are there any real examples of schemes in the real estate market?
Well, you see, if we're talking about Liz, whom you love to talk about so much regarding Liz, there aren't that many schemes in terms of scams or fraud involving Liz. The only thing is that very often, random people, shady people, simply sell fake land.
Listen, how interesting. I wanted to talk about some positive examples. And accordingly, realism started to sound. Let's talk about realism indeed.
Yes, this is a realistic kind of story. Why should we check this whole situation at all? Because there are too many scam movements here. We have discussed 1,000 times how exactly a bubble inflates when a lot of money is simply redistributed into new plots, with new construction attracting new clients even before anyone has built anything. And all of this is based on fake documents.
But for me, it's madness. Yes, people just take it for a couple of years, sign a contract, and under this whole story they create images, sell the images, and then, yes, then it's uncertainty. The fact that land is increasing by 20% per year is certainly interesting. All right, let's indeed throw in some realities and highlights.
Let's get more real about the schemes and why, for example, it's better to buy your own property, because in that case you have a landowner, which is you. In other words, without this, you cannot essentially acquire the land. This is great because it allows you to avoid all the risks that we just mentioned.
So our price will turn out like this.
The price will be higher. Yes, the price will be higher.
So by how many percent?
Not by percentages. The price will be about 200% higher. Twice, right? Yes, but at the same time, you can own this land for about 80 years in total. 80? Still not 100 years. Okay. We can't talk about some 100 years here. Moreover, the scheme, you say, will be boring. I can tell you, in the most boring way possible, about what this scheme is and that it's not so simple.
I definitely meant it is boring from an investor's perspective. Usually it's like this. On the rise. Oh, buy real estate in Bali, 15-20% return plus 20% growth per year. The return plus 20% grows per year. Oh, I'm not a fool, I'll buy it. I want to buy, so I start listening and watching on YouTube. Well, God willing, I come across this video, and then the cold shower begins.
50% of the people, even more, who come to us, regardless of our recommendation, even when we say, guys, this land is in the light green zone, this is not a very good investment for the future. You won't be able to obtain the necessary permits and so on and so forth. They still don't listen and go ahead to buy because they are so overwhelmed by the emotion of acquiring property in Bali, you know?
Why do they need this?
Most of this is the expectation of rental income, meaning someone has already renovated, someone is already reselling, and it mentions that this villa costs $4,000 a month. That's it. The person calculated, figured it out, decided that it was a good investment, tried it, and believed it.
I believed that it was 4 pieces a month.
Naturally, yes.
And let's see how it pays off in 4 years.
Yes, well, everyone knows how to use a calculator, thank goodness. It seems that now you are considered an investor if you can use a calculator, but no one assesses the risks at the moment of purchase.
So let's analyze this wonderful, precious buyer. Who are these people? Who are these warriors who want to buy here? Men, women.
Men? Almost 90% men. Where are they from?
Percent of men, where are they from?
There are a lot of Muscovites right now, a lot. Specifically from Moscow. And often these are developers who already have some experience with investments in Moscow. Or buy and resell. Yes, yes. Or accordingly some rental income in Moscow.
Okay. What is their budget?
Usually from $300 to $1 million.
What do they want to buy for this? 1, 2, 3.
2 or 3 villas. 2 or 3 villas to diversify risks.
Do they acquire it through a company or separately as an individual?
I always advise purchasing through a company because in this way they reduce their taxes from 20% to 10%, which is quite significant.
In addition, I would like to clarify that it seems to me that if we acquire real estate under a company, it is already a business. A business is sold for a higher price than...
The business sells for a higher price. As a rental business, it will sell for more, and this is a much more reliable scheme. Of course, of course.
So these wonderful people come and start buying. Yes. Do they even understand the history? Or what? Let's say, the percentage of suckers.
Well, you know, it's quite blunt, but probably more so. There are 2 categories. The first category consists of those who don't hear us at all. That's who we work with. The second category includes those who are too scared of being cheated. That's it. 2 categories. Those who do not hear us, it's even strange why they turn to us. They just want to learn something and are willing to pay for it. The second category is those who are too scared.
What percentage of these...
About 50%? About 50%? Meaning they are so blinded by promises and so believing that so 50% are blind and 50% are scared? Yes, the remaining percentage is scared. So these are really 2, well, such extremes.
How do scared people behave?
They are trying to control our work at all stages and are attempting to impose their templates and standards on this Bali story, where everyone prays instead of doing marketing, you know.
And when a dead end is reached, a bit.
Well, that's why we are here, to prevent this deadlock from happening. I mean, to somehow merge these 2 mentalities.
No, look, I imagine it this way. The unscared ones buy in any case, while the scared ones start imposing their working scheme so much that a certain percentage just drops off. That's what I'm talking about regarding this dead end. What percentage drops off?
What does it mean when they are not choosing something?
No, something doesn't quite click for them. They start working with you or someone else, and during the process they begin to realize that it's all very daunting and they say no, probably not. Not many of them, about 10%, make it to the end.
Many still manage to achieve their goals and obtain a proper set of documents. This means that the second group ultimately receives more and of better quality.
So, out of 100% of those interested, 90% reach the finish line.
Yes, I think it's about that, yes.
And they want to rent out this property.
So, over the last 2 or 3 months, probably everyone wanted to rent out this property.
Accordingly, the number of properties available for rent is growing like mushrooms.
Yes. The number of projects that are yet to be implemented here, with some looking for investors and others at the excavation stage, is only increasing. It keeps growing and growing, growing and growing right now. Why is that? The brand of Bali.
He is 100 years old, and how does that not interfere with him?
It continues. I mean, it just keeps going. People have money and they need to invest it somewhere right now. The brand of Bali is still very strong. People come here and invest money. You know how, probably. They arrive here at a certain level of hormones that tell them how good and pleasant everything is here, and so on and so forth. They think that other people will come here at about the same level of euphoria. And, well, to move in calmly, knowing that everyone has money, that everyone is ready to, well, not counting, spend $4,000, $5,000 or $6,000 on a villa, for example.
Month?
Per month, yes?
Listen, I don't understand these optimists. They come here in a state of euphoria, right? Yes. They made it to the place. Yes. Let's go for a swim. Yes. Well, if that's Jimbaran, it's just terrible in hell. Let's say they went to Kangu. The same sticks lying around. The sea is dirty. Drunks. Vislava. All right, let's go to Nusa Dua. Some of these huge complexes, let's just say you can't really get close to them. Well, we went there, probably to Bucky, climbed around a bit, took some Instagram photos, but in general there is no sea there, no beaches. If it's necessary, then it's necessary to live somewhere in Luwak, and there, in Sanur. Sanur is like a retirement village for very heavily drinking old alcoholics.
And also family people, yes, those who love silence. You just mentioned Jimbaran. I can let you in on a secret. Jimbaran is currently the most sought-after location to buy something for rental purposes, because the rental prices are still high. Still, in Jimbaran. Yes.
Is this the most this of that?
Still. The rental prices are high there, and the conditions related to land are still quite favorable. That is, there is a lot of land available for commercial development. But the amount of this land is decreasing. Decreasing, which leads to an increase in the price of the real estate itself and an increase in rental prices. Therefore, many people are coming there right now to invest their money.
Yes, but this is not related to the brand of Bali in any way. When a person thinks of it, they imagine palm trees, beautiful sands, clear seas, jungles, and so on. To experience all of this, one needs to buy t-shirts, travel well, and explore. You can't do it in one place. What you're saying is essentially, well, I don't know, to put it bluntly, garbage.
Well, some people spend months, 5, 6, 7 months, researching to find a more or less suitable location to invest in, yes.
But Jimbaran, in my understanding, if we take, say, Crimea, well, it's like some Feodosia. Have you ever been to Crimea or not? This is Feodosia or Yevpatoria. So this is the very bottom, right? Canggu is the same. It's like some kind of summer camp with grown-up kids who didn't get high in their childhood and came there to catch up, right? The rest is Nusa Dua, which is somewhat near Foros. Something like elite, right? Yes, something elite. Well, and the bouquet is somewhere over there. If we go further, something wild like that.
Well, okay, you believe on your side that Bali is no longer a brand and that it's not worth investing here, you yourself.
Listen, I don't make any judgments myself. I just listen and analyze the opinions of the people who come. They change very sharply. First of all, they are all shocked by the traffic, for one. Secondly, by the prices, it's too expensive. Thirdly, the party's policies and these constant immigration stresses also scare people because, well, you understand, one can just do nothing and live well. But if someone crosses your path, you can get catapulted. Here, medicine is just terrible. I mean, I don't know how to avoid getting sick in the tropics. And all these things, when we start to overlay them, bring a huge benefit from the local mentality, which naturally transforms you into something beautiful and spiritual. But you encounter these realistic messes that hit you as soon as you... Well, I live in Ubud, you know. It doesn't really reach me. Still, some opinions... These opinions have absolutely nothing to do with admiration. People who have already made a fortune there in Canggu, Jimbaran, and in Luatu have really profited. Or don't forget that Bukit is a peninsula like Crimea, where it is much hotter. Yes, there is no rain there, but these are not palm trees, let's say. It's something in between, and there are no jungles nearby, no water. Well, the sea is okay for surfers, but swimming far, well, in general, it takes 2.5 hours to get there in traffic, which is kind of not, oh dear.
Well, you see, I'm usually a fan of venting about these negative moments, but no. I'm just taking, yes, I got it.
Here is the scale of hours. Just the scale on the right, we have, for example, euphoria that drives a person to come here. He's like bang, 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 and among the 50% who are optimists, yes, they bought it, and then they just sit there scratching their heads. That's good too. So, do these pessimists actually go anywhere? Or do they just drive you crazy? Everyone is driving me crazy, not just... They are going somewhere, yes, including me right now, these people, the investors. Are they going somewhere to study the situation?
Yes, they are studying the situation. After all, there are opportunities. For example, if you go on Facebook Marketplace and look at the number of listings, say, in Canggu, you will see that there is a certain market. In Canggu, where prices are relatively stable because everything is already built up. There, everything is already defined, and there are plenty of opportunities to settle in for a reasonable amount of money right now. But I think, in defense of investors, I believe that this rental income mainly... It is expected that people who come here for a short period will bring in business. In other words, they have booked your villa for $4,000 from abroad. A month later they left, and considering the growing tourist flow, well, it's quite possible that this...
Look, it very well might. Perhaps it's in a dream. In his case, I am talking to tourists, to travel agencies, which means that here 93% is the high season. For the 4,000 conditional units you rent, you are renting them for 90 days. Otherwise, everything is idle. That's one thing. And secondly, what they write, there about 4 million, so to speak, is all fiction. In fact, it's no more than 2,400,000. The rest are all Indonesians who come from Java in their cars with their thermoses, staying overnight and living. Well, in a word, these are not tourists. It's more like, extras. So, okay. Do the people who are buying from the investor at least ask you these questions in principle?
Sometimes I'm asked if I provide consultations, and if I conduct consultations related to determining prices, rental rates, and so on. But I never provide consultations, specifically about real estate, whether they should buy or not, because I don't understand.